Hi everybody, welcome to Simply Sweet and Savory. Again, this is your host Natasha, and today we're going to be making our Swiss rolls. I know you're familiar with that from the Little Debbie cakes, but we're going to make a homemade version. So if you do like this video, please like, share, and subscribe so we can bring you even more videos. We're going to start first with our egg yolks. We have 5 eggs all together that I've already separated. I have my yolks here. I'm going to pour these into the mixer, and we're going to whip these until they get really thick to ribbon stage. And then we'll add some vanilla to this as well. Okay, so we're done whipping our egg yolks. Now they're to be to ribbon stage, so if you can see here, when it drizzles off the whip like this, then you're at ribbon stage. And it's nice and thick. It almost looks like mayonnaise, but not as thick. But we're going to take this and empty out our bowl. And the next step, we're going to whip our egg whites separately. So make sure your bowl is really clean after you get your egg yolks out. Also, you want to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla to that mixture. Okay, we started with our egg yolks whipped with vanilla. Now we're going to go with our egg whites. We've cleaned the bowl. Make sure your bowl is really clean again. No residue from your egg yolks. And then you put your egg whites in the bowl and start whipping that. And then you're going to add in 3/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar, and that's going to stabilize your egg whites. And as it's whipping, you're going to add in 1/3 of a cup of your sugar as it whips, and then we're going to bring this to medium to stiff peaks, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, we just finished whipping our egg whites, and we whipped them to medium to stiff peaks, and we have stiff peaks here, so when you pull your whip out, it should stand up like that. So that means you're at stiff peaks, and now we're going to continue with the mixing process. So we have our whites here. Now we're going to add in our whipped yolks. And now we're going to start folding this in. Just like that. And when you're folding, you want to go around the sides and scoop and fold over. You don't want to mix and stir because you'll be knocking the air out of it. So you just turn your bowl and fold over the top. And it doesn't have to be completely mixed in. You want to get a good mix about like this before we start to add in more ingredients. So we have that partially mixed here. Now we're going to add in our dry ingredients. This is a mixture of cake flour and cocoa powder. So it's 1 ounce of cocoa powder and 3 ounces of cake flour. And to this, we're going to add in 1/2 of our sugar right on top. Make sure you sift this together without the sugar so you don't have any lumps in your mixture. Then you'll take it and shake 1/2 of it in on top of your mixture and continue folding. You want to keep as much air as possible because you want your cake to be nice and fluffy. don't worry, it is going to lose some air, but not too much. Then you'll add in the rest of it. And then after this, we'll add in our sugar, the rest of our sugar. Fold it all together, and this will be ready to go into our baking sheet. So now we're going to get this ready for the oven. We have a half sheet pan here, and I also have parchment paper inside that I sprayed the bottom of. On the top there's nothing here, so you don't want any oil on the top, and you don't need to grease the sides because you actually want it to stick to the side so that it can rise. If it has grease on the outside, it won't stick, and then it'll just kind of flatten out. Since this has no leavening in it, you need these eggs to stick to the side and rise to a nice level cake. That's what our batter looks like. I'm just going to spread this nice and evenly. We want it really thin, so don't worry about it if it seems like it's too thin. We want it nice and thin because we're going to need to roll this up. We don't want it too thick. Get it all the way to the edges, actually touch the edge of the pan. This will be ready to go into the oven at 375 degrees for about 10 minutes. So we baked our sponge cake, our chocolate sponge, and this is our finished product. As you can see, it's nice and thin and it releases from the pan. And at this point, we are gonna put a simple syrup soak on it, and that is equal parts sugar and water. And you just heat up your water. You can go in the microwave or on the stove and heat it up, and then it'll turn into just a clear syrup here. And we're going to add a few drops of vanilla extract to it just to give it some extra flavor. That's about a teaspoon of vanilla. And we're just going to brush this and kind of soak the cake because it is a moist cake. There isn't a lot of ingredients in this cake, so it's still kind of dry even though it's really moist. But we want actual moisture added in, so we're just going to add it so with a brush. So now we have our sheet that I've brushed with the simple syrup, and it's already soaked in. You can see from that angle that it's nicely soaked. At this point, we're going to go in with our buttercream. This is Italian buttercream. It's my favorite. It's very light and fluffy. If you guys want to learn how to make Italian buttercream, I can do another video at a later date. But this is really nice and smooth. It's not like regular buttercream where there's granules of sugar in it. It's really nice. It almost tastes like Cool Whip, but it's just not cool. So we're just going to add some of this. Actually, I'm going to use a bigger spoon. Add some of this, and this is going to be our cream filling for our Swiss rolls. Just add a generous amount. By the way, I cut this down the center because I'm just going to make 2 giant rolls, but you can cut them smaller to make little tiny ones if you have a party or something like that. But for now, I'm just going to make 2 large rolls. And then I'm just going to spread this in an even layer. Alright, so we've added our Italian buttercream to our cake. Nice even layer, and this is only half of it. I also have made a batch of ganache. Ganache is equal parts cream and chocolate. So whatever flavor chocolate you want, white chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, half and half. You want to heat up your cream to a boil and then pour it over your chocolate and stir it until it is all dissolved and it's nice and smooth and shiny. And you want a pretty thin consistency, so if it's not thin enough for you, add a little bit more cream. You can also add about a tablespoon of shortening to it so that when it hardens, it's not going to stick to your fingers and it's going to be nice and smooth when it's finished. So now at this point, we're going to roll this up into a nice little log. And there'll be some openings in there, but that's fine. It's all going to be inside, so just keep rolling it up. All your imperfections will be covered with ganache. So now we roll it up like so. And now we have a solid log. And we're going to put this in the refrigerator and let it set for a little bit. Then we're going to cover with ganache. So this one's been resting in the freezer for about 10 minutes. So now it's cool so that our chocolate will stick a little bit better. And I have it sitting on a grate so that any excess chocolate can drip off and not just kind of sit in a pool of chocolate. So now we're going to take our chocolate that's still warm and we're just going to generously pour it right over the top. Just turn here so I can make sure it's getting on this side. I'm just going to go back for a second coat. There we go. Just give it a little tap a little bit. And now we're going to let this sit in the freezer or the refrigerator and let that chocolate get solid, and you will have yourself a homemade Swiss roll. As you can see, we now have our Swiss rolls that are out of the refrigerator. They've been in there for about 20 minutes. So now that they're glazed, we're going to take a warm spatula and just pick them up off of the grate without breaking them. So I have a warm one here, and we're just going to go and glide underneath. And then pick it up. And here we go. Do the same with this one. That one came off easy. And now you have Swiss rolls. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and there will be more videos to come.